Hi everybody, it's DP, and I'm here to review this RGB saber that I recently acquired from Aliexpress. And just to let you know, there's kids swimming next door, and they're having a really good time. And so you might hear some kids in the background, which is a little bit unusual for a video from me, but it is what it is. So what we have here is a hilt that's 10 and 5/8 inches long of really actually really good quality for a Chinese made saber. I'm really quite fond of the saber, and one of the reasons why I haven't reviewed it is because it has this interesting color changing um, process that involves kind of holding the button down for 2 seconds and then releasing the button and then holding it again to get into a mode where the RGB cycles through all the colors, one color after the other with all the gradations. I'm not very good at executing it, but I've just determined that what I'm going to do is I'll do a cutaway at some point. Then I'll do this thing and I'll just edit it in because I can do it. It just takes me several tries, and I don't want to make you sit there while I play around with that. Anyway, so we have a saber that included a blade. They sent me a 32-inch blade. It's kind of a trans white blade with a diffusion film. It's not bad at all. I removed the little there's a little sheath that they put on the end for dueling purposes that it keeps the tip from flying off, because the tip is actually, you can unscrew the tip for whatever reason, maybe get access to the diffusing film if you want to swap it out, or whatever the reason is. I'm actually going to go in here with a dab of Loctite and just kind of lock this in place, because if anything happens to the blade, I'll just replace it. But I removed the little sheath because I find it rather unsightly, and I don't really care for that. Any of the Chinese sabers that you get have that as a kind of a standard setup, and I find it it's not aesthetically pleasing, so I always alter that. Uh, the soundboard is kind of the standard soundboard that comes with 6 fonts plus mute. I did another video a while ago where I demonstrated the fonts, and so you can look for that video. But it's a very, very common soundboard that you can really there's a lot of different sabers that is sold on AliExpress and Alibaba that have that same soundboard. The patch store has I think they maybe have a few sabers that have that soundboard. Rebel sabers, DX sabers, it's very common, but it's a very well-rounded soundboard, and with the color changing feature and the 6 sound fonts, give you kind of a nice Canon font range. You can buy multiple hilts with different designs, as I'm considering buying myself another saber from AliExpress, one of the hilts that I've been kind of eyeballing for a while. It has the same soundboard, but I don't mind it because you can really kind of customize it to your will. And I'm a lot of the sabers that I have on order just aren't showing up, so I have a bit of an itch that I have to scratch. But let's start covering the hilt. So the finishing on the hilt is very nice. You can kind of see the anodization. The quality of this is very smooth, and they have these little chromed out bits. There are some blemishes on it. I'm always kind of getting in there with a little bit of spit and polish and trying to deal with that, but usually you can't. It is what it is. It's part of the process. It's not necessarily bad quality, but it's not quite as refined as what you would find from one of the higher end saber companies. So just be aware of that. There are some little flaws here and there, but not too bad. Not too bad at all. Like I said, this is it's a very clean finish, very well done. It's satiny smooth. There's really no tactileness here, but it's nice and it works. And there's plenty of choke points to kind of deal with this saber from. Now, we have an angled emitter, the S-type variety, with a little bit of a cutout here. The cutout is a little bit on the sharp side, so just be aware of that, but nothing too detrimental. You don't really handle the saber from from the end of the emitter. Really nice touch is right on this little groove point. There's a blade retention screw here and a blade retention screw here. So this blade is not going anywhere. I think it inserts to about here. Let me see. Yeah, there's your LED retention screw. So the LED will probably end, somewhere in this vicinity. So the blade goes in here a good couple inches. So it's secure. Moving down the hilt, you have your standard sort of switch setup that you find on most of these Chinese produced sabers. You have your recharge port, which if you have any of the Saberforge Eco sabers or any of these Chinese produced sabers, you're going to have plenty of cables like this. Inserts into the USB on your PC or laptop or whatever device you have, or you can get an adapter, put it into a wall socket, and then this I actually grabbed the wrong one. I grabbed one with a micro SD, but this actually uses the round type, so that won't stick in there. But a round charge port would go in there, and yeah, it takes about maybe 3 hours to recharge the battery. I believe it has a pretty standard industry lithium ion 18650 battery. Then they have the 2 screws that hold all this in place. Now the way this saber works is this actually unscrews and gives you access to a chassis, and this also unscrews. The speaker is in here with a very, very long cord, so that when you if you have to do anything with the speaker or the battery, you can put the speaker back in here. You don't have to worry about the cord binding up with the pommel, which has actually happened with me with some of my sabers, where you have to rewire the speaker. That's not really an issue with this. One of the issues I did have is the threading. It would never quite get sufficiently tight. You could actually kind of turn it, like, I don't know, it would be tight, but it would get loose, and that was kind of an issue. So I went in, put a couple dabs of Loctite, because I don't really anticipate having to get at the chassis for any reason other than to possibly someday swap out the battery. But I did not put in too much Loctite, so that I'll never be able to get it undone. Just like a nice wrenching, torquing would definitely crack the glue. But as it stands, this has kind of made the hilt much more stable by adding that Loctite. And then you can still remove the pommel if need be, for whatever reason. So let me just go from one end to the other. I'm not too sure what these screws do, other than possibly hold the chassis in place. There's one on either side. The cubes on the pommel are a little bit grindy. They're a little bit sharp. When you're doing spinning, they will tend to nick your forearm, so just be aware of that. It's not a catastrophic issue, but something that is there. So when you're handling the saber, you have to sort of be aware of that. So as I have the pommel and you have your venting here, I'll turn the saber on. You can hear your boot up sound. Now, I think it takes about 7 seconds before it turns on, and you'll hear a Kylo Ren. Okay, yeah, that's not Kylo Ren. You'll hear him when I turn the saber off. So you have a nice backlit switch. And the backlit switch it's just white. It doesn't change color as you change the color of the blade, so just be aware of that. And as far as turning the saber on, I have it currently set to, I think, the Ben Solo font, which is the font that I keep it on. You have blaster block. lock up. I have this currently set to kind of a indigo color. Actually, it's a little bit more on the purple side, but there's a white LED in there, so you get your clash. Changing fonts is just a simple matter of holding the button until, let me get, okay.
That lightsaber was Luke's.
Now, I'm not going to demo all the fonts. Like I said, I've already done a video that kind of did that, but I'll cycle through all of them.
Something else.
That's your mute function.
I'm Cal Kestis. You have something I want.
That's Moff Gideon.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not Jedi yet. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. I'm Solo.
So what I usually do is when I get to the font that I want, if you turn the saber on, now, in order to power the saber down, you have to hold the button for a good long while, probably like 7 to 10 seconds. What I do is I'll start that process and go right through. I'll go right through the saber turning off, right until it turns, goes into deep sleep mode.
The Resistance is dead. The war is over.
Now, if you do it that way, when you do turn it back on, it'll be on the same font that you had selected previously. It's just a little trick that I learned with dealing with the Eco Saber line. Now, eventually I'll do a bit of a comparison with an Eco Saber. I was comparing this hilt to my Acolyte, and it's the same length and very, very similar quality, believe it or not. The electronics are on par with each other, so it's not entirely that dissimilar. So I'm gonna pause the video now, see if I can get some decent footage of the RGB in effect, and then then you'll get to see that. Now when you get into the range that you want, you can actually pull your finger away from the button and kind of just sort of nudge it to where you want it to be. And then once you've done that, just hit it and it locks in your color. So I've got my indigo back. Sorry, but I could not actually show you the process because it took me quite a few tries to get it to work right. I'm not very proficient at it. So anyway, yeah, that pretty much sums up this review. Um, I have to say that I for whatever it was, I think it was something like $70 that I spent on this saber. You really get your money's worth. Now, I don't know how long the soundboard in this saber will continue to work, but it hasn't given me any issues in the few weeks that I've owned it, and I've been using it quite consistently. It seems to keep its charge really well. It doesn't heat up too well. It doesn't heat up too much, so the heat sinks for the LEDs seem to work quite well. Here's one of the blemishes I was mentioning earlier. Not a big deal. Yeah, it doesn't have a specific name. Now, I will put a link to this on my video because invariably people will ask me for the link. Not really going to put a timeline for the ordering. I mean, it did take a while for this saber to arrive. But your experience will probably vary depending on where you're located. So it's kind of moot for me to really bring it up. There are, I think, different sellers on Aliexpress that offer this saber, but you will see this thing offered in a lot of these other stores. And usually they'll give it an exotic name and they'll charge about twice what I paid for this. So I really highly recommend for a lot of these companies, if you see a saber that looks similar to this, go to AliExpress. Chances are you'll find it far less expensive. It's the same exact thing. This does come in different colors. I know for at the very least it comes in a gold. Obviously, I went with black. I wanted something not too flashy. And it really wet my whistle for a saber. So yeah, I had a good experience with AliExpress. They seem to have a pretty decent reputation, as far as I know. Sure, someone will definitely argue at that point with me, which is fine. But my experience was fine. It just, like I said, it took a while for this thing to arrive, but I've been happy with it ever since. So if you're looking for something inexpensive to get you by, I think you could do a lot worse. Anyway, so this is my review for an AliExpress RGB saber, and I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, if you have any questions, please hit me up in the comments. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Please subscribe if you will do me the favor, like or dislike, whatever is appropriate. And hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Hopefully I'll have some unboxings for you coming up pretty soon. So anyway, take care. Have a good day. Bye.